Hello, welcome to Buzzing with Cousin Johnny here. How's everybody doing today? We got a great show planned. I got a longtime friend of mine on, and I can't wait to have him on. So, before further ado, please welcome singer, songwriter, musician Chuck Brewer. Chuck, how you
What's
doing?
happening? What's happening, cuz?
I'm
Good to see
glad.
you, man.
I'm glad you came on. I remember
Yeah, I'm
during the
honored.
during the pandemic.
Remember
You
that.
you came on to the show, and we I think we had our masks on and all kinds of stuff, and that was
Yeah,
like
uh, you're
that was
still,
one of the
still
first
getting.
few shows I think I did, and
No,
that
you're
was
still
great
getting the
that you came
StreamYard
on.
thing working then too.
Well,
It's a lot smoother now, much slicker.
now we're doing good. So,
Yeah,
Chuck, first of all, thank you for coming on and to the show. And
yeah. Thanks for having me.
so, Chuck, I know I've known you for a long time, but where are you from, and how did you end up in Monterey?
Well, long and winding road. I moved here from Virginia in 1976. I was living in Charlottesville. Before that, I was in high school in Northern Virginia, and before that, I kind of grew up overseas. My dad was with the Foreign Service, so we lived in a bunch of different countries. We finally settled in D.C. when I was about 13, 14. I went to the DC area. I went to high school in Fairfax County, Virginia, and ended up going to the University of Virginia. After about a year and a half or so, I got kicked out because of bad grades and the times.
Yeah, yeah.
But I ended up staying in Charlottesville, and my sister and brother-in-law and myself opened up the first head shop in Charlottesville. It's a place called Joywind, and Joywind was a very popular destination with the students. I remember we were looking for a place up in Northern Virginia to open up a store, and there wasn't really any kind of scene there. I said we should go down to Charlottesville. That place is just ripe for something like that. So we ended up going down to Charlottesville and opening up the first head shop in Charlottesville, Virginia. We called it
Perfect. Yeah.
Joywind, and ran that for about 3 years. We opened up in 1971. I got out of it in 74 and kind of kicked around for a while, and then in 76 I packed up all my stuff and moved out to California. I had some friends here in Monterey, and my sister and family, quote unquote hippie family, was out here. So I loaded everything up in my white Chevy van and my dog and my record player and my record collection, and
Wow, that's
and
great.
headed west.
Now, when did you start like playing an instrument or singing and start writing songs? I mean, was that something you did for when you were a youngster? Or?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a youngster, I always had little songs going through my head and stuff like that. But I never really did any trying to put anything down. I didn't really. I started playing music probably in like seventh grade. I joined the junior high school band, and I was a clarinet player, and I did that kind of
Perfect.
mostly through
Yeah.
high school. And then I always wanted to be a rock and roll guy and stuff like that, but I didn't. The clarinet players were not like a major demand for rock bands, so I didn't really get into it until I actually was in my 20s and was out here in California. And I think you probably remember that time.
Oh yeah, that's. I think we met that time,
That's
and
right. That's right. The
we had
Cousins.
yeah.
Our group
Chuck.
was called the Cousins, named after this cat.
Yeah, it was named the Cousins. It was
That's right.
a good a great fun dance band. It really. Yeah. It was.
We got we got we got a little crazy, that's for
You
sure.
guys played at the club, the old club of Monterey, right there
Right.
on Chivo. If people remember it, or
They had a little downstairs lounge area
that was
that some of the bands would use as a green. Some of the big acts that played would use that as a green room. But they had a bar down there, and we'd play down there, and we'd rock the place out. It would go nuts.
would you say that was one of the first bands that you played on, or
Yeah. That's really my first experience in being in a band.
yeah,
Other than playing the clarinet in the high school band and stuff like
right?
that. Yeah.
And then you started. playing around town at that time too. Also,
Yeah, we played, we gigged quite a bit. We had an interesting situation because we had a good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, I got to know him out here, and it turns out he was also from Charlottesville, Virginia, and he had been a frequent customer, let's say, in my store called Joyland, and I met him through another friend, and his name was Steve Vagnini.
that's
and
great.
so
No, so
and so
you didn't
Steve and so
you
Steve
didn't
was a
know
big part of.
Steve at all until you got here.
No, not till I met. No, I
What
met
a
him out here. We,
coincidence!
we we knew all these same people in Charlottesville and that whole scene. Yeah, but no, we didn't know each other until we met out here. And then, of course, we became close friends. And Steve was, as you remember, an integral part of Rent a Crowd. And I'm going to talk
Yeah,
about Rent a Crowd a little bit. You know,
yeah,
Rent a Crowd was a little thing a little shtick that cousin used to do when he was bartending. And we'd have a group of people around. We were all hanging out, stuff like that, and a bunch of barflies and bartenders and party people and sort of musicians and stuff. And Johnny would pretend to answer the phone. He said, "Hello, Rent a Crowd." He says, "You're having a party? How many people do you need? 50 people? We got it." And we would do
yeah,
that. We would actually deliver people. People would say, "Hey, man, I want to have a party. I want some people to come by." And
yeah.
boom, we'd bring them.
You would just kind of network on the phone
I
and say,
know. It
"Hey,
was fun.
you know, this band or this guy or this girl, they're playing down at a place," and it would be like on
Right.
a Monday night, in Harlem. In that era, Monterey during the week was absolutely deserted. Now every night there's action, kind of people walking
Yeah,
around.
there's stuff going on.
So it'd be a Monday. They would have like 3 people in the whole place, and then we walk in. There would be like
Right.
35
I
people
know.
going
We go,
crazy.
we go down. Remember the fog bank? We go down and take that place over.
Oh yeah, and Chivo before it was Chivo.
Was it Bourbon Street? That's right.
Yeah,
And
Bourbon
the
Street. That was
Brasserie, and then Bourbon
great.
Street. That's right. Yeah,
So Chuck,
those
so
are
you,
times.
you
So
played
anyway,
around.
so Steve was Steve was, like I said, a big part of Rent a Crowd, and Cousins, the band, formed out of that association, Rent a Crowd, and Steve was our manager. And Steve actually did a very good job of getting us gigs, probably more gigs than we deserved to get based on our sort of early, skill level as musicians. But I like to say that that's what launched Steve into his career as a music entrepreneur and impresario and promoter, being the manager of Cousins.
It was, yeah, the original
Yeah,
manager
it was. It really was.
that propelled his, you know,
And look at him now.
SLV Productions. That
Yeah, we love Stevie.
that propelled
Yeah.
his SLV Productions. Yeah,
SLV Productions, and yeah, he took, after he managed us, he started managing the Broadway band and all these other groups and stuff like that,
and
Red Beans and Rice, and
red
yeah,
beans and rice. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really that's a great story. How you could come from another part of the country and run into somebody that
it's really bizarre. I mean, Monterey is like the sort of collecting point for people,
it's a
and why
collection.
not? I mean, what a great destination, what a great place to end up, what a great place to be,
It's a great place, and I mean we've got
Absolutely.
some of the best food, chefs,
Yeah,
some of the best artists,
I
some of the
know.
best musicians, singers. I mean, everything is right here, Mon. I mean,
And it's
that's
such a lovely environment, such a lovely place. I mean, I can't, I moved away for, as you mentioned, I moved away
yeah,
in 2004, and we went up to Seattle. We were up there for about 14 years, and we ended up coming back. We didn't think we'd be able to, but fortunately, the real estate market in Seattle got really hot, and we were able to actually sell our house for enough money that we could come back here and buy something at a comparable price. And it was, everything worked out just,
so you made
yeah,
the move
it worked out
for
any
business
better.
for work. Was it for
Yeah,
work?
yeah. I was kind of focusing on my career in tech, and we had the kind of the slowdown happened in the early 2000s in the tech industry, and I started working for a local company here, and I was thinking, well, maybe I can get back into the market if I go up to Seattle. It'll be cheaper to live up there. I can get a bigger house, blah blah blah. And so I did. We got a bigger house, and it was cheaper to live in many ways. And I don't regret the time I spent there. I had a wonderful time, but it was not the same in terms of how people making connections with people. One of the things about California and Monterey in particular is that people are just really, really open and friendly and accepting. And in Seattle area, they're very nice, they're very friendly, but you're not gonna instantly bond with them. They're not saying, "Yeah, oh, come on over, we're gonna have a barbecue, blah blah blah," and invite
Yeah.
you over and stuff like that. So it took a long time for us to form, close friendships. And I think in the 14 years we were there, when we came back here, probably in the first 6 months, we made more new friends in Monterey than we made in the entire 14 years we were in Seattle. So they call it the Seattle freeze for a reason. People are very nice, they're very friendly, but it's kind of this little, reserve to them, which is fine.
You had a
But
band called Fool's Gold right there when you were
we had a band called Fool's Gold. Kind of started that in the in the 90s. I think we stopped doing Cousins in like 84 or something like that. And then I got another band going in like the 90s, early 90s, 92, 93, called Fool's Gold. And we played for about 10 years before I moved up to
I
Seattle.
think I remember when you came to visit one time, and there's a couple of members that were here, right? You played at the bar.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
when I was living up in Seattle, I had I ended up still working for the same company, which is based in Salinas, and I would come down to Salinas like 3 times a year for for work. And so we had, I guess it was 2015, I guess, we decided, I just bought a new car, and we said, well, let's make a little road trip down there. We'll stay for a little while. I'll do that. We'll hang out. And I kind of threw this thing out on Facebook to the members of Fool's Gold to say, hey, I'm going to be in town. What do you guys think about trying to get together and maybe put together like a little reunion show? And everybody's for it.
Yeah,
So
we went that night. Yeah.
So we had one night only at Bonton Leroy's on Lighthouse Avenue.
On Lighthouse, yeah. At that point, you weren't moving back. You were just visiting.
No, I was just visiting. I had no thoughts really of moving back at that point. It wasn't really probably until like almost 10 years later before what was it, 2018, like 3 years later. Yeah.
Well, it's great that you and your wife Rosie came back, and wow.
Love it. I'm really I'm lucky that I've made decisions that may have seemed sort of impulsive at the time, but have turned out to be the right decisions. So
yeah, I remember when you came back, I think you went to one of the Tribe in the Sky events and started playing, and you were welcomed, and then that was it after that, right?
Yeah, that's very true. A big shout out to the Tribe in the Sky and all those people. And they're still doing that. They're still doing these Tuesday nights at the Bulldog. And again, it's very inclusive. People can come up. They play. They try out new material. Some people have little bands that they're just starting out. Some people are just wanting people to play with and connect with and jam with. And Brad Mallory and Jacqueline Cabot, they run that, and they do such a good job. They're such nice people and so welcoming. And
they used to run that place, the Urban Lounge.
Urban Lounge, that's right. Yeah, they had a couple of different places where the Tribe in the Sky get-togethers have moved and morphed for a while, and they were at the was it Urban Lounge was the one down in the Red Line, what used to be the Red Line. What's it called now?
Yeah,
I
remember you were music coordinator for one night.
I was a jam host at one time.
Yeah, you did a good job putting things in place.
Yeah, I look back at that. I said, well, God, there's some people that didn't get to play, and I feel like, oh, geez, I was being a little bit too, too controlling over the situation. But you know, it was one of these sorts of things where it was kind of a free for all. And I thought, oh, you need to organize this thing right now. So yeah, I
Well,
took
now
that on.
you're playing in quite a few venues around town. So the Chuck Brewer band, how long have
Check Brewer band.
how long have they been around now?
Well, you know, this kind of started kind of after the pandemic. You know, right about the time that you and I sat down and had that interview before. I had been in a band called the Eldorados
Yeah,
for back in
good band.
2019, and you know, I was the lead singer for that, and then we had some gigs lined up. You know, we played pretty regularly, and then COVID hit, and all those gigs went away, and that's when I started going back into the idea of, okay, well, now what, you know. And I remember I did a couple of Facebook Live shows. You know, I'd written
Right, I
some
remember. Yeah,
songs. I got some software that I could do compose backing tracks for some of the songs that had been working on for some time. And at one point there, that's when I met up with Richard Bryant, and they have, you know, he owned a recording studio down there on Grand and Central Avenue in PG, where they've since torn down and they're putting up a Kimpton Hotel. And we took those tracks and broke them up and mixed them up and recorded people over the top of them and stuff like that. And that's when we put out, you know, my record, you know, Catch Me If You Can.
yeah, very.
And you know, coming out of that, you know, the Eldorados kind of, you know, went their own way. And I said, well, geez, this is my opportunity to do what I really wanted to do in the first place, was put together my own band. And so that happened right then, like three and a half years ago, early 2021, something like that, when things are starting to open back up. And yeah, we started off with Rod Wilson, Jeff Cavell, Steve Schneider on guitar, and myself, and we've been playing ever since. You know, we got had a couple personnel changes in the meantime, but yeah, we've got gigs lined up. We're playing out, and then on top of that, I've got a couple of duo projects that are going on too, which is kind of fun. So it gets us into some smaller venues and little more focused type of environments.
I mean, that's a lot of versatility. I mean, now since the pandemic, I noticed that venues that weren't venues are now appearing as venues. Like different, like that one time the whaling station brought music in. Now you've
Yeah,
got El Vecchio with music. You've got
yeah.
Mill Diner with music. I mean, you guys are bringing wine.
El Vecchio is a nice little situation down there too. They have Thursdays, they have jazz nights, and on Tuesdays they have blues nights. And just recently, I've played there a couple of times with little different configurations. Just the last Tuesday or so, I was scheduled to play with Kyle Kovalik, but Kyle got sick, and I was able to get Luca Fredrickson to join me, and so we put together. You know,
Great.
we had played together just a few days before over at the old Juice and Java, which is now called the PG Meeting House, and we worked out a set of stuff. Some stuff that he did, some stuff that I did, and yeah, so we played El Vecchio, and it was great. It's really a nice venue. I mean, the food is fantastic. A
Yeah.
couple other places where the duo
Playing.
stuff is going on is Gusto out in Seaside, and Janice Pearl books that, and we've been booked there a few times. The one I mentioned, the PG Meeting House, they've got
Great.
live music about four or five times a week now, and all the different wineries and so forth are having music, and so it seems like it's almost a little easier to get work as either a solo act or a duo. You're not spending as much. They don't have to pay you as much, obviously, and
Yeah.
and the venues are such that they don't want like a big loud band rocking out. They just want
Perfect.
some
Yeah. You play.
quiet music and entertainment, and so those have worked out pretty well. But my favorite thing is still to rock out with the band. I'm
Yeah.
a rock and roll
Yeah,
guy at
you
heart.
played at the wineries, the Blue Fox and Carmel
Yeah,
Valley, and Also, Big Sur Vineyard over there in Carmel Valley. Those are nice gigs and a
Those
nice
are great gigs.
Sunday drinking a
Those
glass
are,
of wine.
oh yeah, it's wonderful. It's relaxing. It's really intimate. You know, you can kind of talk between songs, and you know, it's kind of engage the audience, what audience there may be, uh, and yeah, it's very casual. The Salty Seal, we do the Salty Seal now too.
Oh yeah.
On
Now your CD, you gave me a copy. I have it in my car. I listen to it all the time. That's a really great CD. All original songs, right? I think.
yes, yes.
Oh,
I don't have licensing issues if I use originals,
and
original songs.
the members that you have, um, I mean, just good, great Monterey musicians and singers that you have on that CD. Back in
Yeah, and
the
it was kind of tricky to do because you know we're still sort of in kind of lockdown mode, so we had to bring people in sort of one at a time and farm stuff out and have them record at their own with their own recording capabilities and send stuff back in there. And Richard Bryant, he just did a masterful job of pulling that
great,
all together
great,
and mixing everything and getting all the pieces and giving me ideas and suggestions and not to mention, singing on it. The guy's a fantastic singer, so it was good.
yeah. When I notice, and also in this community, how like a lot of different, everybody's trying to work and make ends meet, and maybe you have someone will have uh, a member that has to do something that night, and you can always grab someone in the community that'll just fill right in and do a damn good job.
Oh, Rod Wilson is the master of that. He gets
Yeah,
the gigs, and then he finds a band to play. Oh, ooh, I've got this gig. I need a bass player. Okay, and then they just do what they
yeah,
do.
that's really great.
But yeah, so
What's
they can
coming
just
up?
basically go.
What's
Well, let me
coming up?
see.
What do you got? What's your schedule?
Well, let's see. So Friday the 25th, we got the band is playing at O'Callahan's.
Nice venue
Uh,
there.
yeah, that's a fun place to play. On the 29th, I'm playing a duo gig with Kyle Kovalik up at Sevy's in Aptos, and then the following Saturday, the 11th of the 2nd of November, we're back at the Salty Seal. We sort of have a standing first Saturday of every month show there.
Oh, that's great.
And we've got a new guitar player that we're working with in the band, Jason Stout. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
Jason. And
yeah.
then his fiancee, Kate Faber, has been singing with us, a singing backup. So we have a nice little. I've been doing a kind of a little act with them too. They have a duo that they're working on, Jason and Kate, called Old Solo Duo, and I've done a couple of shows with them as as my duo, except we're like the old solo trio or whatever. But anyway, so we mix in some of my stuff, some of their stuff, and do some nice 3-part harmonies and stuff. So I really like doing that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, sounds really good. And so Chuck, so if somebody wants to find out when the band or when your duet's playing, to just kind of check on your Facebook page or go to Buzzing with Cousins. Sometimes you could post
Yeah,
there.
I put stuff. I put stuff on my Facebook page, and I share it to like the Monterey Music Calendar and Buzzing with Cousin. And you can check out my website. It's pretty simple. It's chuckbrewermusic.com.
chuckbrewermusic.com website. That's perfect. If somebody forgets, give me a call or message me and we'll get that to you. So, Chuck, I really appreciate you coming on today and spending some time with me. And I want to close out with, I know that you were in,
Absolutely, cuz. It's been a
I know that you
pleasure.
were
It's
in
always fun to
Seattle and
talk to you, man.
you were dying to come back to Monterey, and you wrote a song about coming back to Cali. So we're going to close out this show with that song, and you've got accompaniment.
Can I say a quick word? Can I say a quick word about that song?
Yeah, one more thing right before that is Kyle Kovalik is going to be playing guitar on that song. Go ahead.
So I wrote that song actually when I was in Seattle. I wrote about it coming because I would come to California, but I was always happy to go back home to Seattle. And when I moved back down here, I said, "Well, I got to rewrite this song and change it around." So
Oh
now,
yeah,
yeah, I'm
okay.
back home. I'm back home in California, not there.
Okay, so everybody, thank you for tuning in and listen to this great song by Chuck Brewer coming back to Cali. And here we go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Coming
cousin.
home to Cali. This is called Back to Cali. Guess it's time to bust it down to Cali. Spend some time there hanging with my pallies. Yeah, we agree this ain't no time to tally up a score. It don't matter anymore. Walking down the streets of San Francisco, those folks don't like it when you call it Frisco. So I won't even bother to insist or plead my case. It's time to leave this place for a while. It was raining every day last December, with the darkest days that anyone can remember. And 4 more months of misery to look forward to. It started to get to me, I know it had to get to you. But hey, you know I love it up in Seattle. We try to make it through each winter's just such a battle. Yeah, I'll go back in May when the roadies are in bloom. Once the ground dries out and the roar all this gloom. So I guess it's time to scamper back down to Cali. See my old buds Stevie, Joey, and Sally. Yeah, driving 10 done down through the valley to the bay. Then on to Monterey, where the sun shines and the temps are in the 60s. That's just the kind of thing I need to fix me. The blue skies and the warmer weather just kicks me into gear. I'll spend some time down here, then I'll be home. Back from Seattle, yes, I'll be home. Back down in Cali, yes, I'll be home. Back where I belong, I'm coming home. 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 Now here I come.